Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm so excited because today is another day where we have a soon-to-be in about 30-minute graduate of this 6 months to Food Freedom program. So Courtney is here with us today. She had the pleasure of working with Mary Rose, and she's going to talk about her experience in the program. And it's really important to listen, whether you are on the fence about applying or not, or maybe you've been in the program, or maybe you're not interested. You just love listening to the podcast. Either way, what she's going to provide for us today is really some insight of what it takes to achieve that thing called food freedom. What are the things that they worked on? And what are the things that upon graduation, she's going to need to continue to work on in order to continue to be successful? Because the work doesn't end here, right? So we create this giant container of 6 months to learn what you need, but you still got to have to put in the work, right? One thing I say in my book is if you like the results it's giving you, you're going to have to put in the same amount of effort to get that in return. So it's always, we're always living a healthy lifestyle. We're always setting intentions. We're always being mindful, but we're done with the all or nothing mentality. We're really just on a road of consistency. So Courtney, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So great to have you. Isn't it crazy how fast 6 months goes?
It's nuts. I couldn't believe it when Mary Rose was like, it's our last meeting. I'm like, what?
No. It's so sad. It's like so bittersweet. Like, we're so proud of you, but you've been such a rock star. And I know Mary Rose has really appreciated your conversations and your calls. And we are going to miss you, but we get it,
I know, same.
We do our jobs. We don't want you to work with us forever. We want you to graduate and live your life and just enjoy it,
Yep. That's what I told Mary Rose. Very bittersweet, but I'm like, I'll see you on the socials.
Yeah. And that's the good part, right? We can stay connected through there for sure. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second officially, but I had to just read a little bit from your 6-month reassessment form. So guys, in the 6 months of Food Freedom program, you also, for some people, they do continue a little bit past the 6 months if they need it. But I always want to reassure that I want to make sure that when you graduate, you're graduating and you feel really confident in that. If you need an extra month or so, we'll provide that. But typically at this 6 months mark is where we do a reassessment. And Courtney's ready to go. I said, what have you learned in your first 6 months that you feel confident repeating in the next? She said, balance, mindfulness, slowing down, listening to my hunger, and doing what works for me. Overall, it comes down to listening and paying attention to myself and my needs, as well as knowing that balance can change given the circumstances and where you are. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing mentality. I also learned that any small step is progress, and mindfulness, even if I decide to eat extra, is still mindfulness. A big piece was trying to break all that I have learned from diet culture, which has become the norm for me, and needing to do things a certain way or even look a certain way. I definitely feel confident in what I have learned to be able to implement going forward. I have a new tool belt and a new set of tools. I love it. I love it. So I would love for you, Courtney, to just briefly introduce yourself and kind of share with the listeners what made you decide to reach out to us for help.
Yeah, Courtney Schuyler. I own my own business as an organizational psychologist, helping companies go through change. So I have a background in psychology, which I think is good and bad. It's stuck in my head a lot. It's helped for this program to be very introspective. But what really brought me here was I couldn't get out of my own way. And I think what you said in terms of my last comments are exactly that. I had a tool belt with tools, but they were the wrong tools, and I didn't know what tools I needed. Mm-hmm. And again, I think being very aware of myself and introspective, which I'm sure Mary Rose probably put somewhere as well, allowed me, it was one of those things where, I was binging every night, and I've binged my whole life, and I'm aware of that. And it got to a point where, through COVID, as a lot of us, I put on some weight. I kept trying to get off weight, but I was constantly binging. I couldn't get out of my own way. And there was a night where I just kind of threw my hands up in the air and I'm like, I need help. I can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a change. That's the definition of insanity, right? So I have followed you for quite some time, Tony, on Instagram, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to Tony. I need help. I need support. I need to figure out what I am doing wrong and why I can't change my path and what I'm doing. And I need a new set of tools. And that's really what brought me to your program.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so glad that you reached out. I think you recognize the pattern and you realize I got to break it. If I can't keep doing what I've been doing, I need something else in order to break this pattern. So that's so great. That's so great.
And I think what's important too, Tony, also is I want to emphasize also, it wasn't necessarily even about the weight loss, right? It was, and I was having this conversation with my wife, I need to heal my relationship with food and change my behaviors before I can even think about the weight loss that I would like to get off to be healthy.
Yeah.
So ultimately it was, I knew I needed a step before I could even address any potential moving my health forward physically. I knew I needed to get the mental components taken care of.
Yeah, definitely. And looking back now, I'm curious what you were doing, because I know that obviously you had tried other things before coming into our program. So you probably had that conversation with yourself before. I got to do something. I got to get out of my own way. Like, what was it that we implemented that was different than something that you may have done maybe on your own or following another program or doing something else? I'm curious.
I think a big piece of it is mindfulness. And it sounds so easy, but I'm talking mindfulness in terms of slowing down when you eat and checking with yourself in the middle of a meal, stopping and thinking about, am I hungry or do I just want food? So it's that constant mindfulness and check-in with yourself that I was missing. I was just letting my emotions run with it. And also behaviors become patterns and become the norm and become our comfort. So I was behaving in ways that I had my whole life that, quite honestly, I believe were learned behaviors that I wasn't aware of because I wasn't being mindful in that moment. So it was truly about slowing down, checking in. And a big piece of it is, how do I want this food to make me feel? And how do I want to feel? And that is a constant mantra in my mind, because with the binging, as we all know, we wake up full and gross and we're mad at ourselves. And it's like, why did I do this again and again and again? And it's that mindfulness. Even if you want that extra piece of chocolate, you're being mindful that you're having it. Right. So it's not about restriction or weight loss or diet. And that's what I was missing, because I was so stuck in this diet culture around, you can't have it, and you need to eat this, and you shouldn't eat this, and you only eat this many calories, that I lost the check-in with myself. And I lost how I wanted to feel and how I wanted food to make me feel. Yeah. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in that, because especially when you follow a program, you're following the program. I think that's the really big difference with what we provide. It's like, it is a program, but we're not following anything. We're helping you figure out what you need to do for you, right? We're helping you follow you, if anything, right? Like, check in with your hunger and what your needs are and how you want to feel. So I'm glad that stuck and stayed. I think I did a podcast like maybe about a year ago at this point, or a few months ago, where I said, if there was only one thing that I can teach you ever in life, in anything in life, because it even applies to like relationships, finances, like tasks, jobs, whatever. It's like, how do you want to feel now and later? Like, do you want to try to do everything really quickly and then burn out? Do you want to make time for work, but never make time for your partner? Do you want how do you want to feel now and later? When it comes to even how you eat, when you work out, if you don't work out, if you sleep, if you don't sleep, like, it's everything that you do is a choice that has a reaction, which has a reaction, which has a reaction. So you have to play out that movie and see, what does the end say? And am I okay with that outcome? And if I am, then I can make this choice mindfully. Absolutely. And I think you also bring up a good point. It's all about balance too, right? And finding that balance on your plate, balance in your life. Yes. It's all balance. And I think also another huge piece that I learned from the program is balance changes. Balance on vacation looks different than balance at home, balance away from the holidays, and balance can change. Right. And it sounds like such a simple concept, but it was a concept I was missing and I didn't have. Yeah. It was, to me, again, it was that all or nothing mindset where it is literally about just balance.
Yeah. Which I actually think it can be confusing for some people if they don't have a clear definition of what even balance looks like for them. Because you think about it, all or nothing, 100 to 100, 0 to 100, technically that's even, right? That's balance, right? So it's like learning like that even when you're on vacation, even though it looks different than your norm, it's still not a free for all where you're ignoring, you're feeling sick and you hate yourself and you're like frustrated and you come back and now you feel like you have to start over. Like you're just done with that. That's just like not a thing in your mindset anymore. You might overindulge a little bit here and there. You might, let loose a bit, but it's not going from a 0 to 100, 0 to 100, 0 to 100.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So what would you say is the outcome that you have accomplished? You, Mary Rose, just being in the program, you guys working together, what have you accomplished that you're most proud of?
I mean, it's essentially your slogan, food freedom.
Yeah. Well, define that for some people, because even though I do this a lot, we have new listeners every day, right? So what is that? Like, I try to explain it, but what does food freedom mean to you?
So a huge piece of food freedom is not being stressed out about food. And it was literally, I would stress out about what I was eating throughout the day. I think I was constantly trying to hit, just being a part of the diet culture, hit a calorie threshold. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to having that balanced plate and wholesome food, which automatically kind of puts you within what you should be eating and you're getting the nutrition you need. So I'm not tied to counting calories anymore, which is extremely freeing. I'm not tied to weighing my food, every single gram and ounce of food, because I've learned the balanced plate methodology. It's going away for a weekend. Like I went away this weekend. I'm not stressed about it because I have the tools and the ability now to, did I overindulge? Absolutely. But was I upset and beating myself up about it? Not anymore. And it's, it literally my whole life was being dictated by what I was eating, how much I was eating, and what to eat. Whereas now it's my day-to-day is just a balanced plate and how do I want to feel? And that's everywhere I go. That's on vacation. That's, and it's really, again, it comes down to that mindfulness and how what do I want to have? What do I want to eat? Do I want that extra piece of dessert? Even something it sounds so simple, but even something doesn't taste good, don't eat it.
Yeah. No, so true. It's so true. Like, I had to interrupt this podcast to let you know that my team and I will be hosting a Breaking Through Binging virtual workshop series. We are starting it on Tuesday, March 29th. We will be going live for 3 consecutive days on Zoom. So Tuesday, March 29th, Wednesday, March 30th, and Thursday, March 31st, where we're going to be teaching you how to break through binging. Whether you struggle with binging or emotional eating, or both, this is for you. Thinking about what to eat shouldn't be stressful. Eating shouldn't be stressful. And after eating shouldn't be stressful. People who struggle with binging carrying a lot of guilt and shame with them wherever they go. And we're really looking forward to helping you relieve some of that. This is why we're super excited to host a virtual workshop series, Breaking Through Binging. By the end of this series, you'll be thinking about food differently, eating differently, and even processing your actions differently. Over the 3 days, you'll learn the difference between emotional eating and binging and how to measure progress in both. You'll understand your triggers and the habits and behaviors necessary to develop in order to mitigate those. And you'll gain clarity on what a life without binging looks like and how you can achieve it. Go to the link in the show notes to sign up so that you don't miss this incredible virtual workshop series. And yes, you will get access to the replay if you can't attend live. However, only if you go to the link to sign up. So make sure you go and do that. All right, back to today's episode. Because when people are in that diet mindset or just like eating really quickly or like think they're not supposed to have it, it's like they'll have a bunch of cookies and didn't even like the cookies that they were eating. And
exactly.
Then after, like, wait a minute, why did I just do that? There was no point in that.
I'm a huge desserts person. I love to go to breweries and experience different beers and wineries. And my whole adult life, if it was a beer I didn't like, you just finished the beer. Well, now it's like, well, it doesn't taste good. Why am I drinking it? And it's such a simple concept, but that has allowed for freedom. And I think that part of freedom, food freedom, is also being an advocate for myself and what I want. And I think that's what it boils down to is being my own advocate gives me the freedom to eat what I want and what I don't want that nourishes me and my body and makes me ultimately feel how I want to feel, right? And to me, that's what food freedom means to me. It's really, I'm not following a prescribed diet culture. I'm not doing this based off of what has been told to me, or it's really advocating for myself, my needs, my body's needs. And that has given me the freedom to, eat whatever food I want and still be mindful and thoughtful about it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, God. I just teared up, by the way, while you were talking. I'm going to hold it back. Just for reel it in. Like sometimes you like question, are people listening? Is what you do worth it? And then you get like moments like this and I'm like, oh thank God. What I'm doing matters. Sorry. Okay. I digress. Okay. Anyways. So what I always ask this question because I think it's super important because we hear it's sad, right? Because what you just described truly is what food freedom is and what I believe and what I hope for every single person that comes through this program. The sad reality is though, like there are marketing programs out there that say everything that you just said, but then when you open the book, when you go inside, it's just another diet. It's just based off restriction. It's not a lifestyle. It's like literally none of that. So the skepticism, I think there's a lot of people that like want to invest in themselves. They want this change, but they are a little bit fearful or they're not sure if it's going to work for them. You know, I'm curious if you had any skepticism coming into this program.
I did, quite honestly, especially even at first when it was around, because one of the initial steps is being held accountable to what you're eating and taking photos and providing them to your coach so they could provide feedback. And, you know, my initial thought is like, I know how to eat. Like I'm not eating plates of chips and like, it's literally like this binging thing at night that I have and I'm like, this is not gonna, like, why did I do this? I'm like, this is, But what is very fascinating, and I come to learn and love, is by having balanced plates and mindful eating and, well-rounded meals, you're eating enough to give your body the nutrition it needs. So you don't feel like you're not able to, you can't, quote, air quotes, you can't have certain foods. And then the binging went away because my body was getting what it needed. Mm-hmm. I was eating what I wanted in a balanced way. And I learned that it wasn't about like accountability and somebody tracking what I was eating, but it was more so learning how to build a balanced plate. Mm-hmm. And saying, you know what, you should probably be increasing your protein a little bit. You could make those veggies a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. So I was skeptical at first because I'm like, how is this gonna help me with my emotional eating? And I'm like, and I was also like, I don't want to take pictures of my food every meal. Like mm-hmm. This is, but it also helps build behaviors, right? And makes things routine. So it's building those foundational components so you can take them and they're just, it's second nature to you instead of anything else. So I was totally skeptical. Plus, I think also I've tried so many things and they haven't worked. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why would I? I'm like, okay, this might just be another thing that doesn't work, and I'll figure it out from here. And sorry, Tony, it worked.
Don't be sorry, it makes me happy. But I'm just glad. No, I honestly, I appreciate your honesty, and it's just so true. I mean, at this point, I just know that when I get on a discovery call with someone, that even though it sounds really great, I mean, because you've always been taught if it sounds too good to be true, that it probably is, right? So it's like, I know that when it comes to the end of the call, they're like, I don't know. Please just trust me. Just like, I honestly just need you to trust me to start, and I need you to trust me to finish. Like, I need you to just trust the process. Just lean in. It is going to be uncomfortable, but like what you've been doing hasn't been working. So let's maybe try something else. Okay?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's great. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, that it's funny because even in my own field, because I am an organizational psychologist, right? I have a PhD in organizational psychology. So I deal with this in corporations all the time. Mm-hmm. And yet I didn't even recognize it in myself when I was taking on the program, right? So it is just kind of like trust the program and the process. And also your intake method is great too, because you align us with the right coach that we need. I think it is valid because some people may not need this. Some people may need something else. So instead of, and quite honestly, that was super reassuring too in the beginning, Tony, because the fact that you do an intake as opposed to just like, yep, you're in, pay me the money, right? Mm-hmm. There's a process to make sure the right people are a fit for the program. Yes. And that alone was also very reassuring in the beginning, even though I still had some skepticism. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's important for both ends, honestly, for us, because we want to make sure that we really understand that this is going to require some work, right? But like Mary Rose actually is the one who coined the term, like, we meet you in the middle. Like, I don't think she coined the term, but she said it on a podcast once. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what we do. We meet you in the middle. Like, so if you give, we give. If, it's like, well, if we're not going to overextend, if you're not going to meet us there, otherwise it's not going to work, right? So we want to always make sure that when we're on those calls, we want to make sure that you don't have to put in massive amounts of effort. It's not like the hardest thing you've ever done, because obviously that's not sustainable, but you are going to have to put in a consistent amount of effort and be willing to do some work in order to see the change. So that's also why I have people apply, because even that alone, just taking the time to fill out the application, get on a call with me for about 45 minutes to an hour, like that just goes to show that you are committed. Right? You know how hard it is sometimes to just book an appointment or to like fill out an application. Like I look at my calendar and I'm like, where is this going to go?
Right? No, I know. Same. It's one of those things where you're like, oh God, they're making me fill out paperwork. But I also want to, it also is very important for people to know that you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Like it's not like this program just does it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, for me, it is a lot. I did some food journaling every day. If I did have a binge, how did it make me feel? And why do I think I was triggered? And and then it's about bringing that to your coach too, right? Yes. You also have to be open and honest with your coach. You can't just gloss over potential items. So, for me, it was about having those honest conversations about what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. And so I think the program works if you put in the work along with it. And I think that's what's also very, very important.
Definitely. Awesome. All right. So before we kind of talk about any kind of like last minute things to wrap up, I would love to just go over with you kind of the main things that you and Mary Rose implemented that really is what you really feel like made you successful, and the things that in order to continue to be successful, you would have to create them. So guys, for you're listening, in the 6 months food freedom program, at the end of every weekly call or bi-weekly call you have with your coach, you create what are called your action items. So at the end of the 6 months, I like to create what are called like almost like your action items for life. Like, times and stages in your life will change and they might have to be flexible and adjust a bit. But basically your action items for life are those things that that you need to do to make yourself feel better, that you need to do to stay on target and on track with, where you want to go and who you want to be, right? So I am curious, Courtney, if you want to kind of just share, what are some of the things that you've incorporated over the past 6 months that you are going to choose to continue to do so that you can continue to feel the results and see the results that you've achieved?
So a big one is just a balanced meal, and really implementing that plate method. Mm-hmm. it's so simple, but it's so easy to implement, and visually it is just super helpful. And I do that for everything. So even if I'm having a really stressful day, I make sure to have a protein, a complex carb, and a veggie, right? And fat. Even if it's something like I'm on the run and it's crazy and I'm grabbing a protein shake, a thing of carrots, and maybe a piece of bread with peanut butter on it, right? It's always implementing balanced plates. And some days it's quote unquote, air quotes again, better. Again, that comes down to the other piece, which is balance, right? It's okay if I'm in back-to-back meetings for 12 hours and I can't make a plate with some chicken and a thing of mixed vegetables and then like some whole grain rice. If I don't have time, it's okay, but it doesn't mean ignore what you've learned and what your body needs. So to me, it's the balanced meals 3 times a day. And then it sounds also so simple, but like, listen to your hunger cues. Are you hungry? Go eat something. Like
honor your hunger. When you honor your hunger, you'll be able to recognize your fullness and honor that too, right?
Yes, and that's part of it also. It's slowing down while I'm eating. Now, some days I'm better at that than others. Again, it depends on my schedule. If I have a very hectic schedule and I know I have back-to-back meetings that'll go late, I may consume something a little bit faster than I would care to. But again, it just comes down to just slowing down, being thoughtful and mindful, understanding how you want to feel, understanding how different foods make you feel. That's really big. And part of balance too, is also around healthy habits physically. What am I doing physically, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's, I've implemented, I have time blocked off 3 days a week. That's called my self-care time in the middle of the day.
Yay!
So I do that. For the most part, it stays the same. Occasionally, of course, I have to, if I need to meet with a certain group of people, that's the only time they're available. But that self-care block of time does not get deleted. It just gets shifted to another part of the day. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to 12 every week. And that's my self-care time. And during that time, I do what I need. Recently, it's been lifting and going for walks. So
I'm so proud of you. I remember we had a conversation about that like maybe 3 months ago at like your midway call.
Yep.
So proud of you.
That's a permanent thing. Even to the point where my wife's like, when are you working out? I'm like, 11 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It doesn't change.
It's somewhere in there, somewhere in 11 to 12. She's not working out for 3 hours. Is that 3 hours?
Right.
Yeah, somewhere in that 11 to 12. Yeah, no, totally. I love that. I think that's awesome. I mean, that's so great.
So those are the big ones. And then I think another big one is, I'm going to say it again, is advocating for myself. I was not advocating for myself, even with the certain foods I wanted to have in the house and eat. I was catering to other people. And I was, even if we are going out to eat and people were drinking, I was giving into that, even though maybe I didn't want to have a drink at that time. Maybe I wanted something else. And I'm not saying you have to choose whether or not to drink, but what I'm saying is you need to focus on what you need for you and what you want and advocate for yourself and be that advocate. And that's a huge one that I've continued as well, which I think also encompasses all the other things that we've discussed.
That's awesome. Yeah, those are great. Those are so great. And guys, I mean, listen, everyone is different, but what she just described are very foundational things that I think if you've heard, I think a few weeks ago, you guys heard from Nicole. We had so many other graduates from the program have been on this podcast and kind of shared their story and their experience. And I would say 100% of them said the plate method. I think 100% of them said 3 balanced meals a day. I think 100% of them said move their body, but don't be like rigid and super crazy about how you do it. I'm pretty so like these are things that whether you're in the program or not, these are things that if you're struggling with binge eating, if you're struggling with your relationship with food, if you're struggling with consistency, try practicing making a habit out of those things. and just start to assess. Oh, and honoring your hunger. That's also what 100% of people like use. And actually this episode is going to come out. So this is coming out whenever you guys are here on this Tuesday that's coming out. Recently, this past Thursday, it didn't come out yet as we're recording this, but it's coming out where Danielle Kaufman, she's my assistant / dietetic intern / RD2B. She's incredible. She just came on and talked about mindful eating practices and using the hunger scale. And earlier today, Courtney really talked about sitting down and being mindful of what are you eating and do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Slowing down. So between all of that, you're going to learn, you already I think you've learned a lot about what is inside the 6 months of food freedom program and why we're so passionate about it, because all of these tools really do kind of help you get to that place of food freedom. So this is so great. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. Last question for you today. What would you say to someone who's interested in applying to the 6 months of food freedom program, but is maybe a little bit on the fence?
Well, first and foremost, I would just say do it. I think what's important is you're thinking about it for a reason. And the fact that you're thinking about it probably means you need to do it. Mm. I think that's really important. I think also what is really great about the program is it's very easy, applicable, consumable tools that you can apply to your life that very easily become the norm and is something that can become routine. So it's not something that kind of just throws your life into a tizzy that you can't do every day. It's truly a new set of tools and a new tool belt that you can easily grab and use. It's not, and something that can be second nature. It's not difficult. And I don't say that to dismiss the program. It's not that the program isn't difficult, because you need to do the work and you need to put in the work. And quite honestly, in the beginning, what is the hardest thing is reminding yourself to be mindful.
You have to, before you can be like, have that food freedom where it's like not taking up all your brain space, it's going to still take up your brain space, basically. You're going to be mentally exhausted and emotionally exhausted because it is something you're constantly thinking about and doing. Yeah. But the actual tools you are given are not hard. They are very consumable and very palatable and very easy to digest and apply. And because they're so easy, it turns into something that's second nature and behaviors you can easily adopt. Yeah, I love it. Oh, so great. Thank you so much for being here, Courtney. This is so amazing. For those of you listening, if this inspired you to take action to get your application in, I strongly encourage you to do so. Go to tipswithtony.com/coaching. Watch the video about the program, learn more about it, put in that application. We'll schedule a discovery call. And on the discovery call, we'll set up a Zoom call. We'll make sure it's a good fit. We'll go over your needs. I would not put you in the program. I'd tell you it was a good fit if I really didn't think so. So it doesn't hurt to apply. So go to tipswithtony.com/coaching to get your application in. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. We are so, so proud of you. And for those who are listening, if you're new to the podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. As always, this is Tony Marinucci, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.